This isn't a toy. It's a fully engineered scale luxury motorhome with real chassis, suspension, and engine.
Every system is built from scratch, just like a real luxury coach. Check out this working suspension, engineered to flex just like the real thing. From blank table to rolling prototype, this thing actually drives. Yes, there's even a transforming roof deck for that over-the-top campsite flex. Underneath, a real working power plant, bench tested before it ever touches the chassis. Full slide out, storage, and hidden mechanisms everywhere you look.
Before cutting a single piece, the entire layout, power system, and wiring path are planned on paper. Using digital calipers, the full-size motorhome is scaled down precisely so every millimeter matches the real thing.
This is the goal, a fully detailed luxury rig built exactly from the drawings.
Everything starts as a simple sketch, blocking in the proportions and the crazy slide out.
Then the sketch is converted into a proper blueprint, with every key dimension locked in. The interior layout is scaled the same way, so the slide-out, roof terrace, and furniture all fit perfectly.
Even the engine position is mocked up on the plan to balance weight and leave room for suspension and storage. Front, rear, and side views make sure the body template matches the proportions from every angle.
A full foam mock-up checks stance, window positions, and slide-out size before committing to metal and plastic. From chassis rails to body modules and wheels, the whole project is broken into clear build phases.
Finally, the chassis and suspension plan lays out where every airbag, shock, and axle will sit under the body.
To carry the weight of a luxury motorhome, the chassis has to be dead straight and perfectly square, even at this scale. Every dimension from the drawing is scaled down in millimeters so the body, suspension, and slide-out will bolt up perfectly later.
Every edge is filed smooth so parts fit perfectly, and the chassis looks as clean as a high-end RC kit straight out of the box.
These holes will anchor the cross members, suspension mounts, and slide-out supports, so alignment here decides how solid the whole motorhome feels.
The main rails are cut oversized, then trimmed to exact lengths so the wheelbase and slide-out section match the blueprint perfectly.
Every piece is labeled and laid out before assembly, just like a full-size build. And this is where the chassis plan turns into real parts. With the rails, cross members, and wheel arches bolted up, the chassis finally becomes a rigid backbone ready for suspension and bodywork.
With the chassis rolling and the clear template in place, you can finally see how the full luxury motorhome will sit on its wheels.
Everything starts on paper. Ride height, bag placement, and shock angles are sketched over the side view before drilling a single hole in the frame. Up front, the steerable axle uses double wishbones and compact knuckles packed with real bearings for smooth, precise steering.
Before fabricating the axles, the clear template lets me check wheelbase, ride height, and suspension positions against the final body shape.
The rear end rides on a custom airbag-style suspension, so this luxury motorhome can soak up bumps even at scale. Rear axles, leaf packs, and spring mounts are all laid out like a kit, making it easy to balance strength, travel, and weight.
Once the axles bolt up, you finally get a sense of stance. This thing already sits like a real high-end coach.
Each rear axle is its own module with integrated diff housing and leaf pack, so I can tune stiffness by swapping springs later.
The dual rear axle and front beam are mocked up first, so I can check clearance for the airbags, shocks, and steering links.
First, the steering geometry gets mapped right onto the chassis so the servo and bell cranks can move without hitting anything.
This high-torque servo sits low in the frame, driving the steering through a compact bell crank so it stays hidden but powerful.
Each wheel gets its own steering arm, tied back to the central bell crank so both sides turn in sync.
With the linkage dialed in, both wheels track perfectly across the blueprint. No toe-in surprises later on.
Fine adjustments on the tie rods set toe and center the steering so the motorhome tracks straight at speed.
Even with the body on, there's plenty of clearance. No rubbing when the front end dives or turns full lock into a campsite.
On paper, the motor, shaft, and rear diff are kept in a straight line to avoid vibrations and driveline bind. The engine is built in modules, which makes it easier to detail, paint, and even upgrade later if this bus ever needs more power.
Inside the rear diff, tiny bevel gears let each wheel spin at its own speed when this motorhome takes tight corners.
The heart of the drivetrain is a tiny multi-gear transmission that drops revs and adds the torque a heavy motorhome needs.
Once the cylinders are sealed up and the head is torqued down, the tiny power plant is ready to bolt into our luxury motorhome.
Even the drive shaft is machined to spec. If it's a fraction off, you feel it as vibration through the whole model.
The engine sits low and centered on soft mounts, just like a full-size coach, keeping weight down in the chassis and vibrations under control.
With a second set of hands, the engine can be nudged millimeter perfect so the exhaust, prop shaft, and suspension all clear. Once the mounts are torqued down, the whole frame transforms. The chassis finally looks like it's carrying a real powertrain.
A telescopic shaft takes power to the rear diff while still allowing the suspension to move through its travel.
With the gearbox, drive shaft, and rear diff linked up, this is the first time the luxury motorhome actually drives its own wheels.
Just like a real coach, this motorhome gets proper disc brakes on every corner. Rotors, pads, and hardware all scaled down.
Each rotor bolts to the hub, then the caliper slides over with real pads, ready to clamp down when the servo pulls the brake linkage.
These rotors are overkill for a scale model, but the more detail you add, the more it looks like a real luxury chassis.
With a second set of hands, the big wheels slide on without stressing the hubs or the freshly built suspension.
The wheels are pure luxury spec. Big multi-spoke alloys that still clear those chunky calipers and vented rotors.
Spinning the hub shows how free the bearings are and how firmly the brakes bite when the linkage pulls on that lever. Before any panels go on, the floor beams are mocked up so the slide-out and interior won't clash with the suspension. A rigid floor pan ties the chassis together and becomes the base for the slide-out tracks and interior walls.
Side panels are machined with precise cutouts for windows and the slide-out so everything lines up with the floor openings.
A lightweight rib skeleton gives the body its futuristic curve while keeping the structure strong but not overly heavy.
Side panels are traced directly from the scaled drawing so window spacing and the slide-out frame stay perfectly to scale.
These vertical posts define the wall height and support the slide-out opening exactly where it appears on the blueprint.
Underneath, linear rails bolt to the floor, giving the slide-out a smooth, rigid path in and out of the body.
Finally, the full floor deck, with the entire layout sketched on, drops onto the rolling chassis, ready to carry walls, slide-out, and roof.
The exterior starts flat on paper. Every curve and slide-out line is cut to match the blueprint exactly before it becomes 3D.
Scaling up the side artwork full length makes it easy to check proportions and window placement before cutting final body panels.
Once the graphics and cutouts are locked in, the side skin is offered up to the ribs so the real 3D shape matches the original concept sketch.
The ultra-curved front shell locks onto the wooden ribs so the futuristic cab blends seamlessly into the more traditional body frame.
Thin styrene sheets get gently curved over the ribs, locking in that smooth, monolithic side profile.
The slide-out gets its own sculpted skin, so when it's closed, it disappears into the side profile, and when it's open, it still looks like part of the same futuristic shell.
The long black side stripe ties the huge front cab to the elevated roof deck and gives the whole motorhome a sleek, concept car vibe.
Fully extended, the slide-out shows off that row of oval windows and proves the shell clears the mechanism perfectly.
Rough panels get blended into that smooth, spaceship-like nose so the motorhome slices the air even in scale. Up top, the aero roof pod and hidden deck line up with the slide-out so the whole mechanism disappears when everything's closed. A compact lead screw under the floor turns rotary motion into the straight, controlled movement that drives the slide-out. The whole drive unit is removable. Motor, screw, and runners come out as one tray if anything ever needs servicing. Gas strut-style arms let the roof deck tilt open, giving access to the terrace while keeping the mechanism slim in scale. A hidden motor and a pair of limit switches handle the automation. Stop it fully out, stop it fully in, no guessing.
From above, you can see how everything ties together. The roof deck, slide-out frame, and drive screws all sharing the same compact footprint.
Every room is designed as a removable module: sofa, kitchen, bed, making it easy to reconfigure or upgrade the interior later.
Even at this scale, the kitchen and bedroom get real luxury details: flush doors, integrated lighting, and a screen at the foot of the bed.
Each interior module is built like a piece of high-end furniture. This L-shaped lounge just drops into the slide-out as one unit. Modules for the ceiling and cabinets slot in from above, so wiring, lighting, and furniture all stay accessible during the build. Modules drop onto locating pins in the floor, locking them in place so nothing shifts when the slide-out cycles in and out. Inside, it looks like a tiny penthouse. Dining area, full kitchen, and bedroom all packed into the footprint of a scale model.
Power, receiver, and lighting controller are planned on paper first, so every cable has a clean route through the chassis.
Tiny LED projectors tuck into the nose, wired back to the main harness so the headlights, markers, and interior all run off one system. All the circuits land here at the distribution board, making it easy to isolate the drive system, lights, and slide-out motor. With the roofline, slide-out, and step all traced in LEDs, it looks like a concept coach lit up on an auto show stand.
The main battery hides flush in the floor, keeping weight low and leaving the living space completely clean.
With the shell still open, the LEDs get tested. One switch floods the whole tiny apartment in warm, even light. A smooth primer coat levels out all the sanding marks so the final paint will look like a real full-size body.
The long black graphic echoes the concept art, stretching from the cab into the slide-out so the whole slide reads as one continuous shape.
A tack cloth grabs the last specks of dust. Any tiny crumb now would show up as a crater in the final clear coat.
Heavy masking protects the curved windshield and front clip, while the side gets its final color pass and clear.
After clear coat, a mini polisher brings out real reflections, just like cutting and buffing a full-size paint job.
Wet sanding between coats knocks down any dust nibs and gives the body that glass-smooth base you expect on a luxury coach.
Before any color goes down, tiny sponsor logos and spec badges mark this thing out as a proper custom build.
After all the sanding and buffing, the fresh white and black paint finally sells it as a tiny concept motorhome straight from a design studio. With the chassis dialed and the body painted, it's time for the final marriage. Everything comes together for the first full build-up.
The shell drops onto locating posts in the chassis, so the ride height, wheel arches, and slide-out line up perfectly.
Once the body is bolted down, the slide-out glides in and out without rubbing, just like a full-size luxury coach. Behind a hidden service panel, the slide-out and lighting controllers stay accessible, so tuning the travel and brightness is as simple as turning a screw.
A last function check. Slide-out, underglow, and interior lighting all synced to a single control channel.
From bare frame to this fully functioning scale motorhome, every hidden mechanism and little detail finally works together. A simple wooden ramp proves the geometry. Front axle takes the hit, rear axles stay planted, and nothing scrapes underneath.
Rolling down the test lane, the proportions and ride height look exactly like a futuristic full-size motorhome, shrunk to 1/8 scale.
On the shop floor, a light push on the nose shows the suspension isn't fake. The whole body squats and settles just like a real coach.
Killed house lights and full LEDs on, it turns into a sci-fi land yacht, every edge traced in tiny pixels of light.
Set on its own mini campsite, it looks ready for a weekend away. Awning lights on, slide out open, and the lounge glowing inside. That's the finished build. Working suspension, powered slide out, full lighting, and a custom chassis. Hit like, subscribe, and tell what crazy features should be added next.